had utility taxes, $29,000. Hotel motel taxes were $363,000. Cable franchise, $236,000. The utility franchise, $227,000. And this FY11 was the first year of the utility franchise fee. We also had from licenses and permits, $393,000. Nope, I'm off a line. $271,000. Fines and forfeitures, $393,000. Intergovernmental revenue to the general fund was $511,000, and that's grants from other entities, the state or the federal government. Charges for services, $444,000. Whoops, I am getting off lines. Geez, I need a ruler here. Charges for services was $444. Use of money and property, that's interest and rents, $156,000. And other revenues were $934,000. So the total revenues to the general fund was slightly over $10 million. The next page shows expenditures in the general fund, and these are classified by functional area, and then further broken down between operating costs and capital outlay for each of the functions. Again, this year the largest part of the expenditures in the general fund is for public safety. That includes the city's police department, fire department, and a smaller amount for emergency management. Public works area in the general fund, about $2.1 million. Health and social services, $17,800. Culture and recreation is $2.7 million, and that includes all the various park and rec activities, as well as the library and art center. Community and economic development, $755,000. That includes the community development office, building department, as well as the subsidies to tourism and to the chamber. The general government area is $1.9 million, and that includes the various administrative activities, finance, HR, city administrator, mayor and council, general building and grounds, and the city's insurance program. And then capital outlay for those same functions, about $100,000 for public safety equipment. Public works equipment, $105,000. Culture and recreation, parks, and this does include library books, $151,000. And then general government, about $34,000. So the total expenditures is $14.7 million. And so the revenues, before we consider transfers, are actually under expenditures by about $4.7 million. The next page shows the funding transfers. The transfers into the general fund are about $5.6 million. And this includes funding from road use taxes for public works expenses, as well as funding from the employee benefits tax levy for all the various pension and insurance benefits for employees in the general fund. Transfers out $540,000, and so we come down to there's a total other financing sources uses, and then the next number, revenues are actually over expenditures. Revenues and other sources, the transfers in actually exceeded expenditures and transfers out by $375,000, and that's actually our increase in the general fund balance for the year. So we started out June 30th, 2010 as $1,875,000, and the ending fund balance is $2,251,000. We also have $174,000 of encumbrances, outstanding purchase orders at the end of the year. So the unreserved fund balance comes down to $2,077,000 as of the end of the fiscal year. I think we're do F5 to get it to go.
It's not a Mac, is it?
Okay, this next slide is an analysis of revenues and expenditures to show what items came in under budget, over budget, both in the revenues and expenditures. When the original budget for FY11 was done, and that was in March of 2010, we thought the ending fund balance would be $1,662,000. Last year when we did budget, March of 2011, we revised that down slightly to $1,613,000, and then our actual ending balance, as we just stated, was came in at $2,077,000. So that balance is $463,000 higher than where we expected it to be, which is significant and higher than we've had in any recent year. That $463,000, part of that difference is because revenues came in over budget, and our expenditures actually came in under our estimate. So I'll go through some significant general revenue categories. Revenues actually came in under by 201, or revenues came in over by 201,000. Property taxes were slightly under by 1,500. Utility taxes slightly under about 1,700. The utility franchise fee, and again this is our first year of the fee, was 27,000 higher than where we thought it would be, and our estimate was based on what information we received from Alliant when we adopted that fee. The cable franchise is slightly under by 3,700. The road use tax transfer in is under by 167,000. And that's because the corresponding expenditures were also under budget, so we didn't need to transfer in as much. Employee benefits, similar. That transfer in is under by 57,000 because the employee benefit costs were also under budget. Health insurance transfer for the wellness came in at $11,500 because, again, the expenditures were under budget. Okay, on the next page, we're getting into some specific revenue sources here. Hotel motel taxes came in very favorably, 53,700, higher than our estimate, and the actual amount was 60,000 higher than what we had from the previous fiscal year. So there was a strong turnaround in hotel motel taxes. The department's building and zoning revenues came in over by 23.3. Police grants came in over by 17.7. Library revenues were over by about 4,000. Art center revenues were under by 1,500. Parks and Rec revenues in total were over by 10,500. Cemetery revenues were also over 19.5. Public Works over by 51,000. The court fines, and that's mainly police enforcement fines, over by 48,000. The automatic traffic enforcement fines, and again, this is our first several months using the enforcement cameras. We budgeted revenues conservatively there, and we ended up 148,000 higher than what we had conservatively estimated. Licenses and permits were under the estimate by about 3,400. The ambulance, the transfer from the ambulance fund was higher than what we had budgeted, and that covered the increased overtime in the fire department. And most of that overtime was directly related to the increased number of ambulance runs. And then the various other things were over by 3,100. So in total, revenues came in over budget by about 202,000. The next page, we go to expenditures, and I've grouped this by, again, the functional areas. In total, they were under, and this is comparing to the original revised estimate, by about 261,000. The general government activities came in under by 70,500. Public safety in total under by 121,500. Library, Arts Center, and Parks were under by 20,000. The community development, planning, zoning, building safety, they actually came in, their expenditures came over the original revised estimate, but we did amend for that, and most of that's due to the increased nuisance abatement costs for enforcing the nuisance abatements in that department. Public Works, they came in under budget by 51,000. The airport subsidy was under by about 6,900. And then the various funding transfer levies came in slightly over by 181,000. So in total, again, expenditures came in under by 261,000. So between the revenues coming in over and the expenditures coming in under, that resulted in the significant increase in the general fund. The next page is comparing the ending balance in most of the other operating funds of the city with where we projected it would be. And so I've got some numbers on there with footnotes to a later schedule, and I'll just highlight some of the major ones. On this schedule, we start out with the original budgeted ending fund balance for each fund. In the first column, in March of 11, when we revised that, the next column is the revised estimate ending fund balance. And then the third column from the left is the actual ending balance. And then the final column on the right is whether that balance is favorable or unfavorable compared to what we thought it would be. And as we already went through, the first one is general fund, and that is favorable by $463,000. I'm going to skip the ones that are relatively close. The water pollution control fund, that came in slightly under where we thought it would be by about $36,000. And that was a combination of revenues being less than budgeted by $194,000. And then expenditures were also under budget by $157,000. The revenues under budget, a lot of that was the industrial charges were under by $126,000. The amount and the strength of the waste from the industrial customers was less than what we'd anticipated. And residential and commercial came in under by $64,000. But to the water pollution control fund, that $36,000 isn't a significant percentage difference. The collection and drainage fund, that actually ending balance came out $159,000 higher than what we'd expected, and that was all due to expenditures coming in under budget by about that same amount. In the solid waste funds, the refuse collection fund, that balance is $47,000 higher than what we thought it would be. And in that case, revenues or expenditures came in under by about $55,000, and revenues were under by about $7,900. The landfill fund, and we went over this when we did the landfill review a few weeks ago. That fund is in a deficit of $2.1 million, but we had projected it to be $2.175, so we're about $75,000 better than what we had projected it to be. The landfill closure reserve, that's showing that it's less than what we projected, and that's because when it was computed, the transfer from the landfill fund was less this year than what we had in prior years. Going down to the parking system, that ending balance is $9,400 higher than what we projected. Revenues came in over by about $6,000, and expenditures were under by $3,400. In the transit system, that ending balance is $36,000 higher than what we projected, and expenditures came in under about $29,900, and revenues were over by about $6,000. The golf course, and this is net of the clubhouse inventory, that actually came in under our projections by about $29,000. for the golf course, yeah, revenues came in under our projections by $41,300.